Your biggest mistake might be thinking that you get paid for your time. Let me tell you something that changed my life. You don't get paid for your time. You get paid for the value you bring to that time. Look at two people working the same job for the same 8 hours. One makes $50,000 a year. The other makes $100,000. Same title, same office, same time clock. What's the difference? I'll tell you, it's not the hours they put in, it's what they put into those hours. I learned this lesson the hard way. Like most important lessons in life. As a young man, I thought showing up was enough. I'd punch that clock, watch those minutes tick by, and wait for my paycheck. I was trading time for money, the worst trade you could make. Why? Because time is limited. We all get the same 24 hours. But value is unlimited. Now pay attention to this. Your wages make you a fortune. Your wages keep you afloat, but your value builds your empire. The marketplace doesn't pay you for your time. It never has and it never will. The marketplace pays you for the value you create. That's the fundamental economic law that most people never understand. I once worked with a man named Bill. Both of us worked at the same store, both putting in our 40 hours each week, but Bill was making 3 times what I made. I complained about it until my mentor set me straight. He said, "Jim, you're bringing an hour's worth of work to that hour. Bill's bringing 3 hours of value to each hour he works." That conversation changed everything for me. You see, I was busy counting my hours, and Bill was busy making his hours count. That's the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. When I started my first business, I worked harder than anyone. 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. I nearly ran myself into the ground, and my bank account didn't show much for it. Then I realized I wasn't getting paid for those 16 hours. I was getting paid for the solutions I provided, for the problems I solved, for the value I delivered. This isn't just philosophy. This is practical economics. Look around you. The highest paid people in any industry aren't those who put in the most hours. They're the ones who solve the biggest problems. A plumber doesn't charge you $200 an hour because he spent an hour at your house. He charges that because he saved your home from flooding. That's value. A top attorney doesn't earn $1,000 an hour because of the time spent in court. She earns it because of the 20 years of knowledge, skill, and judgment she brings to those minutes in court. That's value. Your paycheck isn't a payment for your time. It's a measure of your value. Once you understand this, everything changes. Your focus shifts from how can I put in my time to how can I increase my value. Here's what happened when I finally understood this principle. I stopped watching the clock and started watching my performance. I stopped counting my hours and started making my hours count. And my income didn't just double, it multiplied. Now some of you might be thinking, but Jim, I get paid by the hour. How does this apply to me? Let me clarify something important. Even if your payment structure is hourly, you're still not being paid for your time. You're being paid for what you bring to that hour. Think about 2 construction workers. Both swing a hammer for 8 hours. But one builds with precision, works efficiently, anticipates problems, helps his teammates, and consistently delivers quality. The other does the minimum to get by. Same hours, but vastly different value. Guess which one gets the raise? The promotion? The marketplace is ruthlessly fair about this. It doesn't care about your intentions or your effort. It cares about your results, your output, your value. Now here's the exciting part. While your time is finite, your value isn't. You can continually increase your value without adding a single minute to your workday. How? By developing skills that solve bigger problems, by increasing your knowledge, by improving your performance, by expanding your ability to serve others. I had a friend who worked as a salesperson, making cold calls 8 hours a day. He was paid on commission, but barely made enough to get by. Other salespeople in his office made 3, 4, even 5 times what he made, working the same hours, calling from the same phone list. I asked him, "What are you doing to improve your sales skills?" He looked at me blankly. "I'm putting in my time," he said. "I make my calls." There's the problem. He was bringing time, not value. He wasn't studying his craft, wasn't improving his approach, wasn't learning from rejection, wasn't analyzing what worked and what didn't. 6 months later, after dedicating himself to becoming more valuable, studying sales techniques, practicing his pitch, learning about customer psychology, his income tripled. Same hours, different value. This principle holds true whether you work for someone else or for yourself. The key is to stop seeing yourself as a time seller and start seeing yourself as a value creator. Here's a simple truth. The highest paid people think in terms of results, not activities. They focus on output, not input. They measure contribution, not hours. Now, building your value doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a discipline, a way of thinking. Let me give you some practical ways to increase your value. First, become exceptional at something specific. General skills make you generally paid. Specialized skills make you specially paid. Find something important in your field and become the go-to person for that thing. I know a woman who worked in customer service, making the same as her 20 colleagues. She decided to become an expert in handling the most difficult customers, the ones everyone else avoided. Within a year, she was promoted to train others, doubling her income. Same hours, different value. Second, solve bigger problems. Your income is directly proportional to the size of the problems you solve. Small problems, small pay. Big problems, big pay. Look at any industry. The person who can solve a $100,000 problem gets paid more than the person who can solve a $10,000 problem. It's as simple as that. Want to increase your income. Increase the size of the problems you can solve. Third, develop multiple skills that complement each other. One valuable skill makes you useful. Multiple valuable skills make you indispensable. I call this skill stacking. When you combine several skills, technical knowledge with communication abilities, specialized expertise with leadership qualities, you create a unique value proposition that's hard to match and even harder to replace. Fourth, increase your speed of implementation. It's not just what you can do, it's how quickly you can do it. In today's fast-paced world, speed has value all its own. I work with a graphic designer who charges premium rates, not because his designs are necessarily better than others, though they are excellent, but because he can deliver in 48 hours what others take 2 weeks to produce. That speed is valuable to his clients, and they pay accordingly. Fifth, improve your ability to work with others. No significant value is created alone. The most valuable people aren't just skilled. They're skilled at multiplying their effectiveness through teamwork, communication, and collaboration. Some of the highest paid executives aren't necessarily the most brilliant technical minds. They're the ones who can align teams, resolve conflicts, and bring out the best in others. That's enormous value. Here's something powerful. When you focus on creating value, instead of putting in time, work becomes more fulfilling. You stop watching the clock and start watching the impact. You move from I have to work to I get to create. Let me tell you about the compound effect of value. Just like compound interest in your financial investments, value compounds over time. When you consistently deliver more value than expected, opportunities find you, doors open, your reputation precedes you, your work speaks for you, and what started as a small difference in value can over time lead to an enormous difference in results. I've seen this play out in my own life and in the lives of countless others I've mentored. Small, consistent investments in your value, learning one new skill, reading one good book, making one improvement in your process, add up to dramatic changes in your life and income. There's another aspect to this principle that's worth understanding. When you get paid for value, rather than time, you break free from the linear relationship between hours and income. Someone who gets paid for their time is forever limited by the number of hours they can work. Double your hours, double your income, but there's a ceiling. You eventually run out of hours. But someone who gets paid for their value has no such ceiling. Create twice the value, earn twice the income without adding a single hour to your workday. This is how ordinary people create extraordinary results. Not by working more, but by being worth more. I need to address something important here. Some of you might be thinking, Jim, this sounds great for entrepreneurs or salespeople, but I'm in a job where my pay is fixed. How does this help me? Here's what you need to understand. While your current paycheck might be fixed, your future earning potential isn't. When you consistently deliver more value than you're paid to deliver, one of two things happens. Either your current employer recognizes that value and rewards it with advancement, or the marketplace recognizes it and rewards you with better opportunities elsewhere. I've never, in all my years, seen a consistently high-value person stuck in a low-value position for long. The marketplace has a way of correcting these imbalances. Now let's talk about escaping the time for money trap. This is crucial for long-term financial freedom. When you're paid for your time, your income stops when you stop. Take a vacation, no income. Get sick, no income. Want to retire? But when you shift to creating value, you can build systems that continue to deliver value and generate income even when you're not actively working. This is the secret to true financial independence. What does this look like in practice? Depends on your field, but here are some examples. A teacher who creates a curriculum that can be used by thousands of students. A programmer who builds software that solves problems while they sleep. A writer who creates content that continues to help people years after it's written. A business owner who builds systems and teams that can operate without their daily presence. These are all examples of creating value that transcends your time. And in each case, the income potential far exceeds what's possible when simply trading hours for dollars. This doesn't mean you stop working. It means your work changes from doing everything yourself to creating systems of value that extend beyond your personal capacity. I built my speaking and teaching business this way. In the early days, I could only reach as many people as I could personally speak to. My income was directly tied to the number of seminars I could give. But as I created books, recordings, and training programs, my value reached people I would never meet, in places I would never visit, at times when I was doing something else entirely. That's the power of creating value that transcends time. But how do you actually do this? How do you make the shift from time-based work to value-based work? Let me give you a framework. First, identify what specific value you currently provide. What problems do you solve? What improvements do you create? What pain do you alleviate? Get clear on the actual value you deliver, not just the activities you perform. Second, look for ways to amplify that value without increasing your time investment. Can you serve more people at once? Can you create tools or systems that multiply your effectiveness? Can you teach others to deliver similar value? Third, develop assets that deliver value in your absence. These might be information products, automated systems, trained team members, or intellectual property. Fourth, continually increase your value creation skills. The more value you can create, the more valuable these assets become. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a journey. But every step you take away from the time for money paradigm is a step toward greater financial freedom. Let me tell you about a landscaper I worked with. For years, he traded his time for money, charging by the hour to mow lawns and trim hedges. His income was directly tied to how many properties he could service in a week. He was busy, but not prosperous. We worked together to shift his thinking. Instead of selling lawn care services, he began selling the most beautiful property on the block, guaranteed. He built systems to ensure consistent quality, hired and trained a team to deliver on his standards, and created a management structure that didn't require his daily presence. 5 years later, his company services 10 times the properties it once did, and his personal income has increased 20-fold, while he works fewer hours than before. That's the power of shifting from time to value. Now let's talk about the discipline of continuous improvement. This is the engine that drives increasing value. The marketplace is dynamic. What was valuable yesterday may be commonplace tomorrow. To command premium compensation, you must continuously improve and adapt. I've developed a simple practice for Daily 5. Each day, take 5 concrete actions to increase your value. Learn one new thing related to your field. Make one improvement to your work process. Add one skill to your professional toolbox. Connect with one person who can teach or inspire you. Solve one problem better than you did before. These don't have to be huge. Actions, small, consistent improvements compound over time. A 1% improvement each day makes you 37 times better after a year. This commitment to continuous improvement protects you from commoditization. In today's world, anything that can be systematized, automated, or outsourced eventually will be. The only sustainable competitive advantage is the ability to learn and adapt faster than the competition. I've seen people in dying industries thrive because they were committed to continuous improvement, while others in booming fields faltered because they grew complacent. It's not your industry that determines your fate. It's your capacity to grow and create new value. Let's explore another critical aspect of value creation: finding your unique value proposition. You see, value isn't generic. The most extraordinary value comes from bringing your unique combination of strengths, experiences, and perspectives to bear on important problems. Too many people try to create value by imitating others, but the market already has those people. It doesn't need a copy. It needs an original. Your highest value comes from being authentically you, just the best, most skilled, most developed version of you. I remember consulting with a struggling accounting firm. They were competing based on price and struggling to stand out in a crowded marketplace. When we examined what made them unique, we discovered that the founder had a background in both accounting and technology. His firm started specializing in accounting systems for tech startups, a perfect intersection of his unique knowledge and a growing market need. Within 2 years, they tripled their revenue while serving fewer, better fit clients. Your unique value proposition often lies at the intersection of what you're exceptionally good, what you deeply care about, what the market needs and will pay for. Finding the sweet spot requires honest self-assessment. What are your genuine strengths? Not what you wish you were good at, but what you're actually good at. What problems do you solve better than most? What comes naturally to you that others find difficult? It also requires market awareness. What needs exist that aren't being fully met? Where can your particular strengths create exceptional value? When you find this alignment between your unique abilities and market needs, you've discovered your value zone, the place where you can create maximum value with minimum strain. This is where work becomes fulfilling and financially rewarding simultaneously. Now, let's talk about one of the most important investments you'll ever make, the investment in yourself. Most people understand the concept of investing money to make money. Far fewer understand the more powerful concept of investing in themselves to increase their value. Your most valuable asset isn't your house, your car, or your retirement account. It's you, your skills, your knowledge, your abilities, your relationships, your reputation. Investing in these areas produces returns that far exceed what's possible in the financial markets. I'm not against financial investments. They're important. But consider this: a 10 return on a $10,000 investment gives you an extra $1,000 per year. A 10 increase in your value might translate to an extra $10,000 per year, every year for the rest of your career, which has the greater long-term impact. So how do you invest in yourself? Here are some of the highest return areas. Invest in skills that solve expensive problems. The more expensive the problem you can solve, the more valuable you become. Invest in your health and energy. Your capacity to create value depends on your physical and mental well-being. This isn't just about living longer. It's about having the energy and clarity to perform at your best. Invest in relationships with high-value people. Your network profoundly influences your opportunities, thinking, and standards. Spend time with people who challenge you to become more valuable. Invest in knowledge that doesn't expire. Focus on principles and fundamentals that remain relevant regardless of technological or market changes. Invest in tools that multiply your effectiveness. The right tools can dramatically increase your output and the quality of your work. Remember, these investments often don't show immediate returns. They're seeds that take time to grow, but their eventual yield can be extraordinary. I've mentored thousands of people over the decades, and I've noticed a pattern. Those who consistently invest in themselves, even small amounts regularly, eventually outperform those who don't, even if the latter have more natural talent or better initial opportunities. It's not about making one big investment. It's about the habit of continuous self-investment. Always looking for ways to increase your value through growth and development. Now, let's examine something fascinating about value creation. Its ripple effect. When you focus on creating genuine value, you set in motion a cascade of positive consequences that extend far beyond the immediate transaction. First, creating value builds trust. When people receive more value than they expected, they trust you more. This trust translates into loyalty, repeat business, referrals, and opportunities that wouldn't otherwise come your way. Second, creating value strengthens your reputation. In today's connected world, reputation travels faster and farther than ever before. A pattern of creating exceptional value becomes known, opening doors you couldn't open. Third, creating value improves your skills. The more value you create, the better you become at creating value. It's a self-reinforcing cycle of improvement. Fourth, creating value attracts resources. Money, opportunities, partnerships, and talent flow toward those who consistently create value. This creates a sustainable advantage that's difficult for others to replicate. Fifth, creating value gives meaning to your work. When you know you're making a genuine difference, solving real problems, improving lives, creating positive change, work becomes more than a paycheck. It becomes a calling. I've seen this ripple effect transform not just individual careers, but entire organizations and communities. A culture of value creation lifts everyone associated with it. There's a story I love about a young carpenter who was hired to build one last house before his retirement. Thinking only of finishing the job quickly and moving on, he cut corners and did substandard work. When the house was complete, his employer surprised him by handing him the keys. The house was his retirement gift. The quality he compromised was the quality he would live with. We're all building our house through the value we create. The care, craftsmanship, and excellence we bring to our work doesn't just benefit others. It shapes who we become and the life we get to live. So as we come to the close of our time together, let me leave you with this thought. Your income may come to you in the form of a paycheck, but its true source is the value you create. Increase that value, and everything else increases with it. The secret to having more is becoming more. The secret to greater prosperity is greater value creation. The marketplace will pay you exactly what it believes you're worth. Not a penny more, not a penny less. So stop watching the clock and start increasing your worth. Stop counting your hours and start making your hours count. Stop focusing on what you're getting and start focusing on what you're becoming. I challenge you to ask yourself these questions every day. How can I create more value today than I did yesterday? What skills can I develop that would make me more valuable? What problems can I solve that would benefit others? How can I serve at a higher level than before? This shift in thinking, from time to value, from activity to results, from effort to impact, is transformative. It can take you from struggling to thriving, from surviving to prosperous. Remember, your value isn't fixed. It can grow every day if you commit to growing it. This isn't just about making more money, though that will likely happen. It's about becoming more skilled, more capable, more impactful. The world doesn't pay for average. It pays for excellence. It pays for solutions. It pays for... So decide today to become a person of value. Decide to serve at the highest level you're capable of. Decide to give more than you take, to create more than you consume. This is how ordinary people create extraordinary lives. Not by wishing for more, but by becoming more. Not by demanding more, but by contributing more. Not by focusing on what they can get, but by focusing on what they can give. Your life will change when your value changes. And your value will change when you decide it will change, not at a moment before. Let me tell you something important about this value creation process that most people miss. It's not just about what you do at work. It's about who you become in the process. I had a mentor early in my career who told me, Jim, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. At first, I didn't understand it. I thought success came from pouring everything into my work. But he was right. When you grow yourself, your value grows automatically. This is what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. Ordinary people work hard on their jobs. Extraordinary people work hard on themselves. You see, the marketplace doesn't just reward what you can do. It rewards who you are, your character, your attitude, your thinking patterns. These create the foundation for all the value you'll ever produce. I've seen talented people fail because they neglected their character. And I've seen people with modest talent succeed remarkably because they developed exceptional character. Your reliability, your integrity, your attitude toward challenges, these aren't just nice qualities. They're economic assets. They create value. They determine how much the marketplace will reward you. Here's something else. The internal standards you set for yourself matter more than the external standards others set for you. When your personal standard exceeds what's required of you, your value automatically increases. Most people do just enough not to get fired. Exceptional value creators do far more than required, not to impress others, but because their internal standards demand it. I know a woman who started as a receptionist, same job as dozens of others in her company, but her standard was different. She didn't just answer phones. She made every caller feel important. She didn't just take messages. She followed up to ensure connections happened. She didn't just greet visitors. She made them feel welcome. 5 years later, she was running the entire customer experience department at triple her starting salary. Same hours as before, different value altogether. Your standard becomes your brand. Your brand determines your value. And here's the beautiful part. You control your standard, not your boss, not your company, not the economy. When you consistently deliver above the standard, you create a reputation that precedes you. Opportunities start finding you instead of you having to chase them. Remember this, no one can prevent you from becoming more valuable. Market conditions might be challenging. Your current job might have limitations. Your starting point might be humble, but nothing can stop you from increasing your value except you. So make that decision right here, right now. Decide to become so valuable that the world can't ignore you. Decide to create so much value that success is the only possible outcome. Your time is limited, but your value, that's unlimited. That's the opportunity before you. What will you do with it?